If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Thank you, Ayana. That's the perfect segue. It's a pleasure to welcome Heather Waters, Laura Hutson, Ayana, Lowe, and Giocille Shaw, talking to us about facilitating holistic well-being through music. Over to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Marissa. And thank you to everyone who's stuck with us and is fighting what is probably quite significant Zoom fatigue at this point. So we appreciate you listening. So we'll start with our presenters introducing themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ayana Lowe, and I am here in New York City. I have been a teacher for 40 years in the public school system. I've taught everything from math to science, and early childhood music, and I can't tell you how this conference has really spoken to me. And I want to thank Giocille, who is on the same panel with me, and Heather. Both of them have been inspirations for me in this learning how to teach early childhood music. The end.
Hi, I'm Laura Hutson, and I'm a music teacher in Central Florida and a doctoral student at Teachers College, Columbia University. And music has always been very important to me, like probably to all of us. And so that's why I'm a music teacher, because I want to pass this gift on and help, give that tool to others to find their eudaimonia in their life. I work at an independent school in Central Florida, and I teach general and choral music. And I also serve as the musical director for our shows. We usually do 1 or 2 shows a year, and they're all extracurricular. And so I've found that it's helped, this process I've seen it help our students as well as our faculty develop eudaimonia in their life.
Hi, everybody. I'm Giocille Shaw. I want to thank Marissa and Gareth and everybody who presented yesterday and today. These past 2 days have really been an inspiration. I also want to thank Dr. Heather Waters, Laura Hutson, and Ayana Lowe for being such great colleagues, and to Heather for managing all the technical aspects of our working process. I've been a music educator since 1990 in the New York area. I've been performing and singing with as many people as I possibly can, and I lead a voluntary church choir, very small, 15 members. I've been teaching elementary in the Ossining School District for the past 19 years. And for me, I'm really motivated by these ideas of play, musical engagement, how children, primarily children, but also I see it in adults, they just learn through the repetitive joy of play. And so I was directed, thankfully, through Marissa's paper to Hollowell's work. And it's been fueling my methodology and trying to break down these barriers between performer and audience. It's just a very therapeutic approach. I'm very, very grateful, and it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you very much.
And I'm Heather Waters. I'm the coordinator of music education at Adelphi University, which is a small liberal arts university east of New York City. And it's a very family sort of oriented department. And I feel that there's a strong sense of eudaimonia that permeates everything that we do. It feels like a real, true musical learning community. I feel very grateful that although I'm a junior faculty member, I'm gifted with a great amount of autonomy. So I feel that when changes need to be made, they can happen quickly and efficiently. And there's this very clear sense that I'm open to try things and play and really build musical community together with my students. And I am a huge proponent of play, flow, eudaimonia, mindfulness, all as interconnected parts of what I would consider to be a creative and collaborative, fulfilling musical life. So to introduce our project today, collectively, we believe musical engagement makes us fully human. Through vocalization, improvisation, movement, and harmony, music is medicine and food for spiritual life. Engaging, responsive music education potentially contributes to feeling of holistic well-being, flow, and personal fulfillment. However, cultural and institutional inequality makes facilitating musical and personal well-being more challenging in certain settings than others. So the group of the four of us initially met via the Kodai Summer Institute at NYU. And sometimes I still step back and think we're sort of this strange assortment of very different personalities and different experiences, but we really have bonded and we've made really close personal and professional connections since. And we're all drawn together by this desire to teach music as this holistic contributor to human fulfillment. Based on this collective desire to facilitate this within our communities of musical practice, we as a learning community collaborated via shared documents, journals, phone, video conferences, and we've been reflecting on our own successes and challenges in mindfully fostering eudaimonia through our music teaching. So we had some key questions from the beginning that kind of framed our interactions. What challenges have we experienced in our attempt to facilitate eudaimonia education? Oh, I love fur friends. I welcome the fur friend participation. In what ways do these interactions as members of this professional learning community contribute to our own sense of eudaimonia? What institutional structures in our teaching context contribute to a sense of eudaimonia for some, but not all learners, and whose musical voices are heard and whose are silenced? And finally, the purpose of this project and what we're going to present today is to share some context-specific examples of eudaimonia in music education, as well as our experiences participating in this informal professional development learning community as a contributor to our own teacher eudaimonia. So we've shared lots of narratives and stories along the way, but in our presentation today, we've each chosen one example that we think highlights challenges and successes in approaching music teaching and music learning as a holistic contributor to well-being. So I'm going to start with my story, and this story is related to my cohort of peers. There are more than just the peers that, some of these presenters are my peers, but there was a larger group, a cohort of us that participated together in either 2 or 3 summers of this professional development at NYU through the Kodai Summer Institute. So my story is related to that experience. Although I think most of us initially wanted to simply engage in professional development and learn more about teaching using Kodai-based approaches, the experience of interacting for 3 full-time weeks over consecutive summers solidified into much more than the professional development experience. I found my people. I do not say this lightly. I'm somewhat picky about who my people are. This is not out of a desire to exclude people from the circle, but out of a real need for me to find people that nourish my spirit. I most decidedly tend towards the introverted sides of things, and I finally learned that although some people drain me, the right people sustain me. Initially, we attended our summer professional classes together, working just as peers and interacting with students. But given time and shared musical experiences, our bond grew beyond professional development interaction as classmates. I'm often in awe of how different we all are, and yet we're all incredibly supportive of one another. I honestly think it's the music that did it. Over the course of making music together, singing, improvising, moving together, I think we've developed a kind of connection that is hard to find in adulthood beyond very close friends and family members. Those of us that live in the New York area still play music together, and there's usually some form of jam session involved. These jam sessions are unlike others I've previously experienced. I was originally trained as a classical pianist, and I really didn't find what I would call my improvisation voice until I started doing my Orff levels as a beginning teacher. And suddenly then I realized, oh yes, I could improvise and create music spontaneously in the moment. I had always previously gotten hung up on rules and conventions of particular styles and genres, and it always bothered me to feel like a beginner on my own instrument. So years went by, and I practiced diligently, performed my classical repertoire, and didn't really give it much thought. But I still have this sort of residual improvisation hang-up that lingers. But this group that I interact with now, socially and professionally, is different. When we jam together, there's no specific genre, just impromptu music making. No one cares whether you're playing your primary instrument well, or if you pick up something you can barely make a note on. It's all accepted, and this freedom, born out of the group's seemingly unconditional acceptance of each other, nourishes me. When I hear the question, what's one of the first things you'll do after this pandemic? Having a jam session with this group of friends who have become my family is one of the first things that comes to mind. These interactions are consistently nourishing and sustaining. I think if we had interacted by engaging in some other type of professional learning activity, this simply wouldn't have been the case. The music making is what solidified the bonds and built a strong learning community, one I'm grateful to have had seemingly dropped in my lap unexpectedly. I didn't know how much I needed this until I actually received it. And now Laura has a story.
I'm going to speak today about my experience at my school working on these musicals. So to start off, my school is fairly small compared to other schools in our area. And that sometimes means that we do have some scheduling difficulties. I teach music classes to students all the way from 3 years old through high school. And so because of that, I'm not able to offer very many classes at our upper school. And we also operate on a modular schedule. So our students in our middle and high school have 4 classes at a time for 6 weeks. And then they change every 6 weeks. So due to those limitations, our student body size and the modular schedule, this past year I was only able to teach 1 high school vocal class for 6 weeks. And because I'm only at the high school for a very small amount of time, I spend the majority of my time teaching at the elementary school. And I also don't have like a dedicated space at our upper school. So that has made it feel difficult for me in the past to facilitate Eudaimonia with my high school students. And it's also been difficult, to be honest, for me to build relationships with our upper school faculty, which definitely affected my sense of eudaimonia in that area. I found, though, that serving as the musical director for these extracurricular middle and high school musicals has not only helped facilitate my eudaimonia, but I've seen it in my high school students. So these obviously all happen after school, and because of that, more students can be involved in the program than are available during the school day. But they're a huge commitment, and you know, it can feel burdensome. Even though there's joy in that process, it's hard going every day after school for, you know, 2 or 3 months on end. But this shared commitment and this process of being together and putting this show together, it brings people together and it creates a very important bond. Another thing, at our school, we typically cast faculty members and students in all of our shows. And having the teachers and the students involved in the production does allow for deeper bonds and relationships to be formed between faculty and students. They get to know you a little bit differently than, you know, sitting in their class. So during this past school year, we put on 2 musicals. We did Shrek the Musical and Little Women the Musical. And throughout that process, I observed a group of students who are involved in both of the shows and their interactions over the course of the 2 shows. At the beginning of Shrek, many of them were friendly with each other. They knew each other, you know, having been, you know, together at school. But I will say at the close of Little Women, they were a different group of kids. So I was able to sit down with them, luckily, before we had to leave school due to our stay-at-home orders as a result of COVID-19. So I sat down with them and we chatted about eudaimonia. I explained to them what that big word means, and I asked for their reflections on how working on these shows affected their own personal sense of eudaimonia. This group, they're all high school students in grades 9 through 12. And they shared with me that as a result of these 2 shows, their relationships with each other are much stronger than before. And they've developed a special trust and dependence on each other. And they find that now they have a truly vested interest in each other's well-being. I have overheard them having conversations with each other about their mental health and self-care, which, you know, a lot of high school students, that's not something that they readily talk about or really even know how to address. But they also shared that with me in our discussion as well. And because of the deeper relationships that they have formed, they feel much more comfortable reaching out for help and supporting others when they need help. I did have a student share with me that during a previous show, the previous year, they were dealing with thoughts of suicide and self-harm, but those relationships and that commitment to the common goal allowed them to survive and to seek help, which I'm forever grateful for that. I've seen this group become very involved at our school in social justice issues due to that relationship and their bond. They really have a very strong voice, and they're very knowledgeable about important issues. But another important thing that they shared with me was that because faculty were cast in their shows, they were able to form deeper relationships with those adults, which also played a role in their eudaimonia. But not only have I seen this eudaimonia develop with my students, but also within myself. Our school is not large, but it is pre-K through 12th grade. And we have two main campuses, a lower and an upper school. And most of our teachers only teach on one campus. But being a teacher who teaches on both has really been a challenge for me. Oftentimes it's hard for me to feel like I truly fit in on either campus. I feel like I miss things because my time and involvement is split, and so it's limited. But by working on these shows, I can personally say that my eudaimonia was greatly increased. You know, I am a true extrovert, and I need people, and not feeling like I had those relationships was very different and very difficult for me. But now I have some very special relationships with fellow faculty members. And, you know, I'll be honest, I take a great deal of pride in my work, and the accomplishment of the goal and just seeing something beautiful be created from all of this hard work has also given me a very deep sense of personal fulfillment. So those are my experiences.
Well, I love my little rooster, and my rooster loves me. I'm gonna cherish my rooster 'neath the green bay tree. My little rooster goes cock-a-doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo. Well, I love my little rooster, and my rooster loves me. I'm gonna cherish my rooster 'neath the green bay tree. My little rooster goes cock-a-doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo. Now, did that feel a little liberating? Okay. So I go to work to play among 753 third and fourth graders every week, or at least I did before the world got sick. Music is my medicine. It balances my perspective while strengthening my will to extend myself outward toward others. Working with children, every day, young children, it restores my faith in the future because they're full of light, they're full of energy, they're full of laughter, and they're full of spontaneity. They indulge my reliance on traditional music, and they admit it has everlasting relevance. That's a big part of eudaimonia for us. Beginning a class with a traditional song like My Little Rooster is risky because the animal sounds, the motions, I think to myself, am I going to frighten them? But then they echo with gloriously free abandon and a few extra howls to boot. And in that moment, we seem connected despite our diverse ages and backgrounds. And the invitation to improvise and create their own kind of rooster has us on the floor, laughing with delight, out of control, undignified, disarming. We can hardly believe how good it feels to be so ridiculously silly. The singing and moving in free space, that's the beginning of every class. It also informs our instrumental work. So we sing, then we play, then we sing again, then we play again. And after we sing the third time, they hide the song in their heads and they're asked to make up a solo. It could be one note, two notes, one rhythm, total free improvisation. Whatever they do, they have a full 45 seconds to improvise a solo. We stop, we come back to the song. Improvisation is part of the first lesson on every instrument, and it's part of every subsequent lesson. Students share their cultural heritage. Sometimes they help us to understand the relevance of traditional song in their own culture. They help us pronounce the text. They help us convey meaning when we try to sing a song. For instance, we did Sakura. Parents visit and support their children in their learning, and they sometimes bring tea and cake, and sampling music can be a delicious experience for a kid. As a pre-reading exercise, they suggested movement on chairs to illustrate the patterns that we wanted to be able to play. If we could go back to that previous slide for a minute, I'm hoping it's going to play. This is something they came up with to show the difference between melodic movement that ascended, descended, and stayed the same. And there's a little bit of eye contact following the leader, but I said to them, just follow your own pace. So let's see if we can get this to play. No. So basically they would hear do, 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 and they would stand up on the chairs. Do, do, do. They would come back down to the floor. Do, do, do. They would have a seat in the chair. Then we started making the patterns a little bit harder, ascending and then repeating, descending and then repeating, putting a rest in between over 3 and 4 weeks, and seeing if they could combine movements. So once the brain tells the body what to do, the brain can tell the fingers what to do. And musical thought on an instrument is ahead of where it needs to be so that we can remain relaxed, we can breathe, we can try to enjoy even improvising on the spot. To contrast the work that I do Monday through Friday, I have 15 adults who come on Thursday night for 1 hour for a church choir. They, 2 read music, the rest just learn by doing. They have been begging me through email to get together to rehearse. It's just not possible. One of the quotes from an email is, I keep hearing our old songs in my head. It's like a gentle nudge telling me sing, 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 but I just sing anyway in my own house, and it brings me comfort. In closing, if I could just say, your words and your presentations these 2 days have just blown my mind and made me want to just stay quarantined so I can read and think about everything you said. Because we are the stewards of our own thoughts, our own motivations, and our spiritual health. What we take in heavily influences everything that we express out, and our spirits are held in this richly stocked pharmacy, if you will, resplendent with the tradition of communities musicking together under all sorts of conditions. It's nothing new, we all know this. It's encouraging for me to see the next generations are embracing it as we do. And I just hope we never take for granted all the knowledge that we have gained through this daily practice. We have our dark days where things don't go the way we want them to, but it really affords us an abundant life. And I just hope and pray that we continue to care for one another in this musical vein. And I just thank you very, very much.
I am a poor pilgrim of sorrow. I've walked in this wide world alone. No hope have I for tomorrow. I started to make heaven my home. I'm singing that because my part of the presentation just talk about eudaimonia and how I had to bring that back to my school after one of the most horrific things happened. A little 5-year-old kindergarten girl named Abby was murdered, and this was in the fall. Whoa. And if it wasn't for a lot of things that I got out of working with Kodai and in music and understanding how folk tunes really helps to bridge a lot of gaps and helps people with sorrow, you know, that was one of the tools I used. And I'm a jazz singer, and I know how to improvise, and I know how to do a lot. So here I have my group of children who lost one of their classmates. The classmate that her mother was also was killed too by the father. And this small little school I'm at feels that sorrow. And how do I help children get back? How do I? And believe me, I will tell you that what music education does for a community is something that other disciplines don't do. I was a science teacher for years and a math teacher and all this stuff. Purpose of science to build up understanding and logic. But music, when I started doing this 10 years ago, I've realized is the vehicle of real healing and of well-being. So, my little kiddies, whoa, what can I do to make you feel better? Oh, Miss Ayana, I feel so bad. My friend, she's gone. She had a terrible accident, Miss Ayana, and she's not going to come back. What do we do? What do we do? Let's sing about it. Let's enjoy our community together as we feel the sorrow. So I had the kids do a lot of primitive things. I mean, they were just howling and singing and banging on anything that they wanted to. I had them on the floor with their feet up in the air, you know, just having a real time of expressing primitive feelings over the sorrow. Now, how did I also, one of the things I'm really proud of is how I worked with the parents. I developed a couple of years ago this thing called Family Sing. And anybody who wanted to sing, they could come on a Friday, and it was just once a month, and it could be every member of every part of the family. That was it. Now, I had one scheduled a couple of weeks after poor Abby was killed. Here's the photos of what we did to help heal ourselves. The parents and I, we got together. Parents and I were able to sing songs that brought us back. And the community that I built with the Kodai family that I have here, with Laura, with Heather, with you know, just that it has been just very, very, very helpful. And one of the things that I love about this meeting is that when June, sorry, honey, you know, the job of the artist is to show hope. And I believe that I was able to bring this community from sorrow through to eudaimonia. And there it is. We had jam sessions, and I healed. Thank you. So I'm feeling a little sad today because bringing up this stuff is really torturous. Yeah. Would you join with us as we sing a song to kind of help lift our spirits? Who is going to lead? I think Laura is going to lead.
I am. So just so you know, we have lowered the key to E flat to make it a little more comfortable. So if we originally wanted to sing this in canon, but given our Zoom limitations here, I'm going to sing it, and I hope that you'll sing along with me in unison. Oh, music, sweet music, thy praises we will sing. We will tell of the pleasures and happiness you bring. Music, music, let the chorus sing. Oh, music, sweet music, thy praises we will sing. We will tell of the pleasures and happiness you bring. Music, music, let the chorus sing. Thank you. It's one of my favorites.
So thank you so much for listening to our presentation. At this time, we're going to open this up for discussion, and Giocille's kind of going to lead this last segment here.
So in kind of closing, wrapping up, what challenges have we experienced in our attempts to facilitate eudaimonia through our experiences in education?